Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. We've got some interesting news that surfaced as of late, as a former director for Call of Duty, a very recent former director, has actually gone to Twitter, or X as of late, and has been talking a whole lot about game development, his thoughts on it, and some things in specific connect a whole lot to Call of Duty, the development that goes into it. He's kind of calling Call of Duty out to a certain extent, saying, hey, this is why maybe things aren't going the best for certain installments and whatnot. It's an interesting perspective and definitely one that is incredibly fresh. So who we're talking about here is actually Greg Reisdorf, who is the former creative director at Sledgehammer. He was actually the lead director, creative director for Modern Warfare 3, for instance. Greg was on a lot of the calls that I was a part of back last year for Modern Warfare 3 when the devs would preview stuff to him. Seems really dedicated to the craft, and I got a lot of respect for him based on those few experiences I had being able to listen to him talk about their process and everything. But this first tweet right away, I mean, this is very obviously something he learned while working on Call of Duty. He says, in my experience, the first 2 years of a 3-year development were wasted, consistently were wasted. That seems first person, experience driven in my experience, directly saying Call of Duty, the 3-year dev cycle, has a ton of time that is wasted. And that is particularly interesting that he's saying this now, coming in a year where Black Ops 6 currently is kind of been a messy sort of roller coaster. It launched really solid, but then the second season 1 hit, it started just bouncing around all over the place. Some updates were all right, some were insanely busted, and you never know what you're gonna get. Everything's gonna introduce new bugs and glitches, it seems like. But this was a 4-year devved game. Black Ops 6 is the most developed game of all time for Call of Duty, and saying a 3-year dev cycle has enough wasted time, it makes you wonder what exactly is going on with the 4-year dev cycle. And I almost partially wonder because, again, this is with his experience in Modern Warfare 3 being the most recent one here, maybe a very telling perspective, because as we've also heard, Modern Warfare 3 had roughly 16 months of development, as opposed to Modern Warfare 2022, a 3-year title, Black Ops 6, a 4-year title for development, so less than half the time to make Modern Warfare 3, and yet, objectively looking at it, you can argue about the launch content. Yes, it was a lot of remastered maps and there were some remastered guns and whatnot, but the gameplay was innovating off of Modern Warfare 2, so they had to react to Modern Warfare 2 right away, and realize, okay, players did not like the movement, they did not like the gunplay, they did not like the complexity of certain things. React to that right away, change that around, fix the bad of Modern Warfare 2, and then also go on to have the single best post-launch content support of all time for Call of Duty. Again, you might not have liked some of the content, you might not have liked some of the events and whatnot, but objectively speaking, the quantity and the quality of it, in terms of there always being something to do, there always being something unique, essentially, Sledgehammer knocked it out of the park with the least amount of time to prep for this. So you maybe wonder if something there shifted when they had way less time. It was a lot more urgency across the board. You didn't have time to waste, otherwise you weren't going to get the game out. So this is very telling. And there also is some expansion in the replies here as well. Unfortunately, we don't get a response from Tom Henderson, although I do hope Greg sees that and maybe goes on Tom's podcast, talks a little bit more in depth about it, because I think that insight's always cool, especially for players. Getting that look that you typically don't is cool. But Greg gets asked, I feel like ideas are just thrown around and then the last year the team really locks in and makes stuff, right? And Greg says, absolutely. So it's a lot of, oh, what if we did this? But what if we did this? And it's like, okay, this could be good. This could be good. What do we do? Oh, we've got a year left. Let's do this. We're rolling with it. And then they come to, the final product, right? Greg also gets asked, we don't know what we're making, into, oh man, we've got to make something. And Greg says, ship it. So, yeah, it seems like, based on his experience, at least with the Call of Duty development cycle, things are a lot more messy the first while of it, and then the last sort of scramble, if you will, is where most of it comes to fruition. Not a great look for Call of Duty, especially given the products that we've seen in the recent years with how problematic some of them have been. It's kind of telling. It's very telling, actually. But that's not the only tweet that Greg's posted recently. He's been talking about game dev a lot as of late, but this one really kind of caught me by surprise, again, especially considering the context here of what we're coming off of with Modern Warfare 3. As I just alluded to, one of the best post-launch support years ever for COD, if not the single best, I would say by a decent margin. We killed the soul of progression when we started bribing players to show up. Hey, come check out this. You'll get this new weapon. You'll get this bonus blueprints. You'll get this bonus camo. Daily rewards, time gates, come back tomorrow mechanics. they worked for a bit, but now they feel like chores. And I would say more so, that's where I feel like with Black Ops 6 at times right now, especially with like the event updates, there's nothing special about them. Modern Warfare 3 had so many, and you also had so much else to do, whether it was grinding your weekly aftermarket parts and doing those challenges on top of a new event where maybe it was just XP based and you're going to complete that and get a cool reward just by doing some of your other stuff. That's fine. But then sometimes it was a collection based event. Sometimes it was the get higher events where you had to do very specific challenges in a mode that was entirely new. Sometimes it was doing specific challenges within modes, getting a certain amount of kills in Warzone or multiplayer, using a field upgrade X amount of times. They switched it up enough that it was like, okay, yes, it's the same sort of cycle here. Sometimes it's XP, sometimes it's collection, sometimes it's challenges, but it still felt fresh because it wasn't just spammed the same thing. Whereas Black Ops 6 is, hey, earn XP or pick up this reskinned, collectible drop item that comes out of a chest in Warzone or comes out of a body in multiplayer or zombies. There's no life to them, it feels like, and the rewards also just feel lackluster compared to Modern Warfare 3. Greg goes on to say, players aren't dumb. They know when they're being manipulated. Like Call of Duty obviously is all in on the, we got to get players to play for as long as possible. What can we do to hold their retention for as long as possible? Okay, we'll do these events every so often. We'll make the new weapons the absolute meta choices in the battle pass. So they got to go through and either buy our bundles or they're going to spend all the time getting up to the pass and then spend all the time max leveling them to get the actual loadout for it. Modern Warfare 3 shared similarities there too, but there was also, like I said, I think just more depth to it, which made it more enjoyable and feel less like a chore. He includes this graphic, new chore unlocked, daily chores. Like considering unlocks in a video game, like Call of Duty, for instance, a chore defeats the whole purpose of it being a video game. Even when this game is my job, which it really will never actually feel like that, if it feels like a chore, it's missing the mark. You want to play this game for fun, to relax, to hang out and enjoy yourself. And instead it's like, oh, I have to get on, I have to do this event because I need this gun. Otherwise I'm going to get slammed the next time I try and drop into Warzone, right? It's taking away from the core element of it. Again, Greg does expand in the replies here. He gets asked by Chad, who we've talked about a lot here on the channel with some of the great stuff he does on the community Trello, saying this is a loaded question, but is seeing these manipulative progression models giving you ideas to potentially reverse the damage done? How do we make games feel less chore-like? Is it outright removing certain challenges, times content, daily rewards, a mix of removing and supplementing with new progression systems, something that lasts longer? So you start the day one game and it goes, for months before you're going to see an end game, or is that too overwhelming for casual players? It's definitely a hard balance to hit, but Greg says you have to focus on making engaging and interesting content, focus on systems that bring players together and allow them to find the depth and connection together to keep them coming back. And maybe the engaging and interesting part is what Modern Warfare 3 really succeeded in, because like I just alluded to, yes, the event styles were not drastically different, although they did have more challenge-based ones, it seems, or unique ones like Get Higher and whatnot. But you had, engaging content. You had cool camos that players absolutely wanted to go for. You had really cool aftermarket parts that players wanted to go for, especially when some of them ended up being stronger, more meta tier options, right? Whereas Black Ops 6 is like, hey, we've got a weapon blueprint for the aims. Go get that. Oh, also next week, there's going to be a different blueprint for the aims. Woohoo. Yeah. It's an interesting perspective to see someone who is very fresh out of the Call of Duty development and who had a huge impact on Modern Warfare 3 saying that, hey, the development cycle in a 3-year game dev is kind of a joke because of how much time is wasted. And then 2, you can't keep making your games feel like chores because players are not going to want to come back, basically calling out Call of Duty on 2 of their largest things going on right now, the development and all the questioning behind that, and then what keeps the game feeling fresh over time and not just the first 2-month boom you see every single fall and winter when a new COD drops, where Call of Duty makes, billions and billions of dollars, right? So really cool to see more transparency here. Obviously, I follow Greg, so if he talks more about this stuff, gives us more insight, or potentially throws some shots at Call of Duty's way, it's always interesting to see what game devs have to say when they are a bit more transparent here. So I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date alongside everything else going on in Call of Duty. So if you want to stay in the know, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications, and if you enjoyed this video, a like rating on your way out would be seriously appreciated as well. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.